Yeah. Do you have the? Yeah, I just printed one, so you. Yeah.
Do you need me to help you with that?
I'm trying to see if it will stay put on. Let's see. We can't really take the Buddha image in the background, but it's there. It's there now. But then, how about this?
Do monks vote
Yes, in Sri Lanka.
in Sri Lanka?
Um, monks are really into politics in Sri Lanka.
And I notice in my podcasts in the San Francisco Zen Center,
They talk about these
they
things.
talk about
Yeah.
being.
Is it okay you have an image
Yes.
on the front page? Completely not relevant to the discussion, but
It's okay. Oh, it's got a parrot.
it's
I love that.
it's a story I printed for Sunday school kids. It didn't print on what I really wanted it to be printed on, so. We'll do precepts.
Okay.
Homage to him, the Blessed One, the Worthy One, the Fully Enlightened One. Homage to him, the Blessed One, the Worthy One, the Fully Enlightened One. Homage to him, the Blessed One, the Worthy One, the Fully Enlightened One. I take refuge in the Buddha, I take refuge in the Dhamma, I take refuge in the Sangha. For the second time, I take refuge in the Buddha. For the second time, I take refuge in the Dhamma. For the second time, I take refuge in the Sangha. For the third time, I take refuge in the Buddha. For the third time, I take refuge in the Dhamma. For the third time, I take refuge in the Sangha. I undertake the precept to abstain from harming living beings. I undertake the precept to abstain from taking what is not given. I undertake the precept to abstain from sexual misconduct. I undertake the precept to abstain from false speech. I undertake the precept to abstain from intoxicating drinks and drugs that lead to heedlessness. Let's put our phones into flight mode. You have your copy?
Oh, look at that.
I knew that you were going to forget. I may need to print another one. Just 1 second, please. For
Is it coming today? Yeah, I saw it, but I don't know if it's coming.
So your duty also is to make sure
Yeah,
this is running.
okay.
So we are in actually number 34.
No, page or
Section number 34.
I think it's starting 36, isn't it?
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Sorry. Sorry, we didn't go that far. 26, yeah. Yeah. So, deliverance of mind. Now, the word for deliverance is vimutti, almost synonymous with nibbana, the ultimate final goal of Buddhism. But this is not exactly nibbana. Nibbana and vimutti are two different things, as you will learn several deliverances of mind in today's discussion. Mind's deliverance is mind's freedom into something. Mind attains a state and finds freedom from all other states. This is the meaning of one way to interpret a deliverance state of a mind, that you meditate and meditate and meditate. Say you get into a signless state, that you are not focusing of any signs, and you focus on the signless state of the mind, and then you are in a deliverance.
Like S-I-G-N, sign?
Yeah, a sign, S-I-G-N, sign. Signless in a sense of no signs. You're not focusing on lights, forms,
Yeah.
or any kind of signs that your mind is interested in, and you let your mind be free from those, and you find such freedom in it. That is a deliverance, a vimutti. That's the Pali term for it. And I just happened to say before you came that vimutti and nibbana are almost synonymous, because nibbana, the nibbana is the final goal of any Buddhist. That's a state that they try to aspire to get to. They aspire to get to a state of freedom from all bonding. Even in the mind, there is nothing to hold on to. Not relationships, not attachment to things, but freedom from everything that your mind is interested in. When you get to that state, if you don't have any craving to exist in any form as a human being or a heavenly being, or a being in any lower realms, nobody desires that, but people fall into those states by accidents they make, mental right, those are accidents. People happen to make mistakes, they get angry and they don't know how to free themselves from it, and even after death they are stuck in it. They create their own destination based on the mind state. So nibbana is not being in any of those places, but deliverance is stages close to that nibbana but different from nibbana. So let's put it that way and get into the discussion, otherwise we may not be ending this. fourth attempt. So Kotita is the monk who is asking questions here. Sariputta is the one who is responding. Friend, they are friends. How many conditions are there for the attainment of the neither painful nor pleasant deliverance of mind? Now this is a deliverance, vimutti state. So neither painful, adukkha, nor pleasant, asukha. Adukkha sukha, deliverance of mind. So how many conditions? Conditions, the word conditions in Pali is pacchaya. So how many conditions are there for someone to attain? You attain this state. You focus on it and you get there. You strive to attain this deliverance of mind. Now the question is, can we do this? As people who are doing this discussion, yes, we can. This is not a state for these two monks who were engaged in this discussion. This is a state that anyone who meditates, anyone who understands this level can attain. So can you attain this by accident? No. You have to start in your meditation, otherwise you are mindless, not mindful. You're not aware of where you are, like you are lost. But with mindfulness, you are aware of which state you are in. So you don't feel, you have set your focus on a neutral state of the mind. You don't feel any pain, you don't feel any pleasure, but it is a state you can be in with such freedom. You can't name any pleasure in it, you cannot name any pain in it, but you feel such balance. This is that state. So what conditions are there? And Sariputta responds, friend, there are 4 conditions. So these look similar, you will understand. 4 conditions for the attainment of the neither painful nor pleasant deliverance of mind. Here, with the abandoning of pleasure and pain, this is one condition. With the previous disappearance of joy and grief. Joy and grief, joy is not a bad thing, but it disappears. Why? Because it's impermanent. And grief, of course, you want it to disappear. And as you get into these states of mind, grief disappeared way earlier as you wanted, even when you sat into doing meditation. You wouldn't sit into meditation mostly when you are in grief. So grief has already gone, even at the moment you sat, right? When people who are grieving, they cannot focus. So they become unsuccessful in meditation, but smart people really, when they can focus, they can let grief be and continue maybe observing something neutral like breath and move on from grief. Say they breathe in peace, breathe out, let go of grief. That simple exercise. I've done this with hospital patients sometimes. They find some help.
In Sri Lanka.
Here, in Boston. Because they are grieving that they are sick, self-grief.
But here we have license too.
As a chaplain, I could do it. I'm not board certified chaplain, but I was training to be a board certified chaplain. I just need to apply for certification now. That's the thing you can do with patients. You are permitted to do it from the hospital. I was a resident chaplain. Yeah, you need license to even give advice to people here. Like if they
Give
come,
comfort, you need a license.
yeah, to give comfort, you need license. Anyway, grief has gone. So this is disappearance of grief, not permanent. It's just disappeared. That's it. It can come back when there are conditions for grief. A monk, so bhikkhu is a monk, enters upon and abides in the fourth jhana. So first jhana, second jhana, third jhana. Now these states have passed and you are in the fourth jhana state. Now what are these? In the beginning, very beginning, we discussed about the first jhana. When you get to this state of the mind, say jhana is an absorption in the mind, collected state of the mind. So when someone attains the first jhana, very first one of these, what happens is you have let go of unwholesome states of the mind, and you are not seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting, or you don't feel much of physical sensations. You have stopped seeing because your eyes are closed. You have stopped sending any signals to hearing because you are not attending to the sounds. Smelling, you don't really smell things at that moment. Tasting, you are not eating or doing any kind of chewing. And physical sensations, when you have sat properly, your physical body is not going to disturb you. So the first jhana is attained by really letting go of awareness to sense doors and objects, and let go of there is some thinking and examining of your thoughts, vitakka and vichara. And there is joy and pleasure born from this seclusion. Seclusion from what? Seclusion from these sensory experience, sense doors. So you are leaving them there, letting them be, and you attain a state of freedom from these outer experiences. And the second jhana is when you don't have even thinking and examining of anything, you just have collected state of mind, and there is joy and pleasure not from any freedom from sense doors, but at this time joy and pleasure comes from stillness, because you are very still at this moment. And then you get to the third jhana, in which you get some wisdom from equanimity. There is some level of balance, and there is no joy, no pleasure in that state. Right?
Does it just organically happen with practice?
Yeah.
Okay.
It organically happens with practice. You just need to be aware that this is the state you are in. Now, again, fourth jhana also has equanimity, right? A deeper level of equanimity. This is the description that fits into the fourth jhana. What description? Attainment. So, with previous disappearance of joy and grief, a monk enters upon and abides in the fourth jhana. So you are now in the fourth jhana. You came stage by stage to this state. In that fourth jhana, there is neither pain nor pleasure. That's the third condition. And purity of mindfulness due to equanimity. Equanimity that you gained in the third jhana brought you to this purity. This the simile that the Buddha gave um, for about a person who's experienced in this state is that you feel like you are covered from a white cloth, that you feel so pure, very transparent kind of experience. There are no words to explain, describe these states, so the Buddha didn't really go into details because words are limited when describing these deep levels of meditation. So people don't need to fear to enter these levels. People may feel like their body is numb or they don't feel anything. Numb is not a word for this. You don't really feel the body. So they try to shake themselves and feel whether the body is there. And then you break your meditation and stillness because you are, frightened that you feel like you don't exist. But with wisdom, with experience, you come to know that you are mindful. So you emerge from these states after experiencing this. So these are not forever states that you can emerge from them. And definitely these are subject to impermanence. You are going to come back. There are some states that you can make a determination. Some we will find at the very end of this discussion. You make a determination that you are going to enter this state for 1 hour. And the mind somehow happened to know this kind of programming, and at the end of 60 minutes, the last second, you start to emerge from it. So these are beauties of exercise, inner exercising. Like yoga, you feel at a certain point that it's time to emerge from a certain asana, posture, and whether you planned it early or not, you just emerge from it. These are mind's yoga. Yoga actually means like yoking. So this is yoking with the mind. So let's go through the 4 conditions again. These 4 conditions are needed to the attainment of neither painful nor pleasant deliverance of mind. The abandoning of pleasure and pain, that's the first condition. The second one is the previous disappearance of joy and grief. And the third one is, maybe these are the 4 actually. Pleasure is one, second one is pain, they are gone, and the joy and grief, these 4. I was trying to look at it in a different way. I took the abandoning of pleasure and pain is one condition, the second one is previous disappearance of joy and grief, the third one to be
Pain or pleasure?
neither pain nor pleasure, and the fourth one is purity of mindfulness due to equanimity. But I think let's take the other 4. Joy disappeared, grief disappeared, those are 2, and pleasure and pain abandoned. Pleasure abandoned, pain abandoned. So, can you abandon pleasure? Can you abandon pain? Not right now, but in these conditioned states, you are really making conditions. It's an experience you get into when you just close your eyes and go deep and deep and deep. You get in here. And mindfulness really plays a vital role to get into these states. And mindfulness in the West has become a commercialized thing, a marketing thing. You have mindful tea, mindful yoga, mindful everything, and beer with mindfulness.
But only so you can produce more.
Right. Hopefully it produces more, but it seems like it's going down, So mindfulness is actually for these purposes. This is what mindfulness is for. Not just for self-awareness. That's really a low kind of a state. It has now taken out of Buddhism, out of anything from India. It has become westernized and has its own, I don't know, something.
Is there a particular word in Pali for this state?
This is, yes, adukkama sukha ceto vimutti.
So I think the problem is that the English word, I guess, because it doesn't have a matching word, English word, so when you say...
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's hard to translate this exactly. So ceto vimutti is mind's deliverance. Ceto also can mean thoughts, deliverance from thoughts that you are not thinking. Adukkama sukha, I think, is clear to you, neither pain nor pleasure. So adukkama sukha ceto vimutti. In other words, this is the fourth jhana, right? Chatutta jhana.
Adukkama?
Sukha. It's good you asked. So some people who watch this later can learn the Pali word. Pali is the language spoken by the Buddha. And the teachings came in, like many things in India, came from oral tradition, Bahanaka tradition, and monks were, in groups, were assigned to preserve these teachings from generation to generation. They feared to make any mistake. Now the Buddha has gone, but they kept the continuation. And in Sri Lanka, in the 4th century, actually the 1st century, I forgot which one it is. They decided to put it into writing in palm leaves, and that's how we got this. That's why people respect Sri Lanka for preserving the teachings of the Buddha. Anyway, we are still in number 26, right? Shall we go to 27? Friend, how many conditions are there for the attainment of the signless deliverance of mind? So, signless is animitta. Deliverance of mind is ceto vimutti. Animitta ceto vimutti. So this is again another deliverance. Like I said earlier, signless deliverance of mind. How many conditions? Friend, there are 2 conditions for the attainment of the signless deliverance of mind. Simple. Non-attention to all signs. Sabba nimittaya manasikara. Attention to the signless element. Animittaya dhatu. Signless element. Element is dhatu here. So you pay attention to signless element. This is not a thing, a material thing, but
Component. Like component?
it's a component, but not material.
Right.
Mind's focus is said to be staying with no signs. You cannot name anything, you cannot find a form, you cannot see colors, you are just free from all of that. Did you miss anything here?
So the 2 words, but on the later 2 words, that deliverance, signless.
So, non-attention to all signs.
Okay.
All signs, sabba nimitta.
Sabba nimitta.
Yeah. Non-attention. Amanasikara. So, manasikara is literally means doing in the mind. Amanasikara means not doing anything in the mind. So, actually, the word for, in English, the word for that is not attention, non-attention, amanasikara. So, signless element, last two words, animitta dhatu. So, number 28. Can we go? How many conditions are there for the persistence of the signless deliverance of mind? Persistence is titya, to keep it going. How many conditions are needed? Friend, there are 3 conditions for the persistence of signless deliverance of mind. Non-attention to all signs, attention to the signless element, and the prior determination. This is the determination, programming, like I said, of its duration. You make a determination that you are going to spend maybe 3 hours, like you spend 3 hours watching TV or something. This is your TV now. You attain this state, and you make a determination. Many monks who go into these levels, and any lay person, really just let me love these states, because there's no pain, no pleasure, just like freely floating in clouds, and this becomes their TV. So now.
Yeah, the time, say, somebody, go to 3 hours, so where the 3 hours to start, I'm sure that it will take some time to come to that state, and then go from there. Somebody might ask,
I was thinking about that.
without achieving.
Yeah. Right. 3 hours to get here, another 3 hours to stay here. Yes. I mean, for a monk who has been exercising these states, it's only going to take maybe 5 minutes to focus in it. So you spend.
One who practice regularly.
Yes, the person who has been practicing this regularly. I mean, not this, but other jhanas, like entering to 4th jhana. And then he decides to enter to this kind of a deliverance, or different kind of a deliverance. He only needs to focus on that, and he gets into it. As soon as you make that determination, I think mind is so clever that it gets into it. Because for these kind of monks, lust, hatred, delusion, these are really low, down below. They don't feel, they don't enjoy in any of these. So that answers your question, right? 29. Friend, how many conditions are there for emergence from the signless deliverance of mind? So you emerge from it. Friend, there are 2 conditions for emergence from the signless deliverance of mind. Attention to all signs. So this is how you emerge from it. You attention to all signs, and non-attention to signless element. So you take your mind's attention away from being in that signless element. So trying to imagine anything that you know, you can't really. What is signless element? Is this or is it that? You can't say it because it's signless. It doesn't have any nimittas, any name or any form, any shape. So when you pay attention to all kinds of signs, whatever that arises, thoughts, then you take your mind's attention. I mean, thoughts may not come, but maybe trying to imagine some shapes, some lights, maybe opening your eyes, you see all kinds of signs, different stuff. Not road signs or things like that, like go one way or not these. Alright, number 30. Friend. So this is another one. Immeasurable deliverance of mind. Appamana Cheto Mukti. You cannot measure it. You cannot count by number. It's immeasurable. Mind goes and is spread and it doesn't have any length or measure. This and the deliverance of mind through nothingness and the deliverance of mind through voidness and the signless deliverance of mind. See, these look similar, right? Something immeasurable and nothingness, akinchanyayatana, and voidness, sunyata, cheto vimukti. Later you find it's void of a self and signless deliverance of mind, animitta. Let's go to the beginning again. So, immeasurable deliverance of mind, appamana cheto vimukti, you go to limitless deliverance. And deliverance of mind through nothingness, there is nothing that's your understanding. At that moment, there is nothing you focus on, akincha. Deliverance of mind through voidness, sunyata, cheto vimukti. And animitta, signless deliverance of mind, animitta cheto vimukti. So the question is, are these states different in meaning and different in name? So it's the same question that we got as we were reading this, right? Are they the same? Do they have different meaning and different in name, or are they one in meaning and different only in name? Friend, the immeasurable deliverance of mind, the deliverance of all the list comes again. The deliverance of mind through nothingness, the deliverance of mind through voidness, and the deliverance, the signless deliverance of mind. There is a way in which these states are different in meaning and different in name. So these are different states. And there is a way in which they are one in meaning and different only in name. So he's going to ask more questions to clarify this point. Don't ask this from me. I would not know how to keep track of this. What, friend, is the way in which these states are different in meaning? Thank you. Different in meaning and different in name. Here, a monk abides, pervading 1/4 with a mind imbued with loving kindness. Actually, when I went to the Pali, 1/4 is not found there. One direction was found. So I don't know which Pali version this translator was based in. I didn't look into that. One direction of the mind, imbued with loving kindness. So you have your mind, really, mind and loving kindness are the same thing. You feel loving kindness. It's a feeling. You make a wish that you are radiating loving kindness all the people in the front direction. So you think of rats and birds and snakes and humans and heavenly beings and ghosts and everybody in that direction. May they receive my loving kindness. May they feel free from their pains. And at least one person like me today wishing you happiness and pleasure. No enmity toward you. May you. So you are really cultivating these thoughts. You can go on forever doing this. Sometimes, I mean, it's how many beings in that direction. When you feel that love, you can. It's countless number of beings. And then above, below, right, left, behind. So and all directions, you become a bubble of loving kindness. And in all these directions, it feels sometimes you don't need to even think about directions. You just let loving kindness go to any direction. Anywhere it radiates, let it go. Let it radiate freely to every being in every direction. Wishing all beings happiness and pleasure. And some people are hungry and they don't have anything to eat. Some people are hunting to eat. Some people, some animals haven't eaten for days. All kinds of beings. You feel soft when you think about these things. So your loving kindness turns into compassion, feel softness. And when you have really found no enemy in your mind, you feel joy. Because of the power of your loving kindness, you are now not able to set focus on any enemy. All these enemies that you thought you have fall into your loving kindness and they melt in the softness, sweet, delicate loving kindness. So you feel joy and you feel balance after that, because that joy also disappears. So you may not feel them, but you still can be proud that you are radiating loving kindness to every direction. So this is a thing that they did, these monks. We find, unlike breathing meditation, loving kindness has been taught in many teachings of the Buddha, because it's a protection for monks. It's also going to take you to the final nirvana, like final state. So some people think loving kindness is just not a meditation that takes you to Nibbana. It does take you to Nibbana, because you don't forget other teachings. When you do loving kindness, you think about like jhanas and these deliverances. When you have that knowledge, you get to the final states. So let's start again, because I know we may not grasp it fully. What, friend, is the way in which these states are different in meaning and different in name? This question goes on. Here a monk abides, pervading one direction or one quarter with the mind imbued with loving kindness. Likewise the second direction, the second quarter, likewise the third, likewise the fourth, so above, below, around, and everywhere, and to all as to himself, he abides, for pervading the all-encompassing world with a mind imbued with loving kindness, abundant, exalted, immeasurable, without hostility and without ill will. He abides, pervading one quarter with a mind imbued with compassion. Same story. He abides, pervading one quarter with the mind imbued with appreciative joy. He abides, pervading one quarter with the mind imbued with equanimity. Likewise the second, likewise the third, likewise the fourth quarter or direction, so above, below, around, and everywhere, and to all as to himself. You treat everyone with equality. He abides, pervading the all-encompassing world with the mind imbued with equanimity, abundant, exalted, immeasurable, without hostility and without ill will. This is called the immeasurable deliverance of mind. So when you practice loving kindness and you get to this state that you have become loving kindness here, exalted, it has spread, you have become this bubble, and you don't know where you will stop. You continue radiating loving kindness, unstoppable. This is a deliverance of mind, a vimutti for you, freedom for you, right? So he's trying to go into detail of each state. So So the state that he just explained is the immeasurable deliverance of mind. Loving kindness is immeasurable, compassion is immeasurable, joy is immeasurable, and equanimity is immeasurable. These are called appamanas. You cannot measure these when you radiate loving kindness, when you radiate compassion, equanimity, and joy. Appreciative joy, right? We appreciate that these people have helped you and you are happy about their success. You don't feel jealous, you don't feel that you should be an enemy to any being in the world. When people are doing this, they become so radiant. There is a halo, like people, when they look at them, they want to ask, like, what is your fairness cream you are using? Loving kindness is the cream. Or equanimity, or joy, or compassion, these are the creams. That's why when they saw Buddha or monks, they don't need lights at night. There's this luminosity around them. So they want to ask, like, what have you been doing? Because this is a thing, you can see they are very beautiful, not beautiful in the sense of, the physical beauty, but beautiful to look at. No matter what color of skin they have, but they are beautiful, pleasant. They're, then they stare at you and they look at you, you feel such, joy and love coming from them. This is the thing about these practices. So you get to immeasurable states. When you do practice immeasurable love, immeasurable compassion, joy and equanimity, you get to immeasurable state of mind. It's a deliverance. And then the next one he explains. Now he's going to a different one. And what, friend, is the deliverance of mind through nothingness? Here, with the complete surmounting of the base of infinite consciousness, so you enter to a state called infinite consciousness by saying infinite consciousness is infinite. So now you surmount that, you let go of that. Aware that there is nothing means there is nothing, no, not even consciousness. A monk enters upon and abides in the base of nothingness. So, not even consciousness, you are not even, does this mean you are not conscious on anything? You are conscious, but not about spreading consciousness, or not just about consciousness. You take that you are conscious on nothingness, a void kind of a state. That is a freedom for the mind. You enter in it and you spend, so whatever number of minutes or hours you want. So that's a deliverance of mind through nothingness. This is different from the previous state, but again a deliverance, freedom for you. So I think it's best we go to each of these, not trying to understand, everything with detail, because some of these states you may not understand no matter how many times we try to discuss these things, because these have to be understood with time and with practice and listening to more similar teachings. Because this is not the only teaching we will be discussing. We have more to come, so we will get to these again, or maybe simpler ones for that matter. And what, friend, is the deliverance of mind through voidness? Sunyata ceto vimukti. Here a monk gone to the forest, or to the root of a tree, or to an empty hut, reflects thus: this is void of a self, or of what belongs to a self. Okay? What is void? Yourself is void of a self. Or you don't belong to a self. This is called the deliverance of mind through voidness. So voidness doesn't say anything, but void of a self says enough for you to understand. That you don't take your I, say physical I, I, as a self, because you know this thing came when you were born and it will die when you die. So this is not yourself. So you can take that and reflect on selfless nature. Not really selfless nature. Selfless has a different meaning in English, right? Selfless person means someone who goes an extra mile to save somebody's life. But void of a self. Anything you take, nose, tongue, physical stuff, void of a self. And objects you see, hear, void of a self, because they come and go. So who is seeing here? When you take all these elements separately, all these experiences separately, you don't see a self. Like when you take steering wheel and wheels and the body and the chassis and everything from the car, when you separate these, you don't call those, you cannot say that's the car, because those are different stuff. So these are simple teachings, but people feel when all these things work together, you name that this is the self. But when you separate everything, you don't find a self. And people in Buddha's time thought that there is an eternal self in everybody, and once you die, you join an even bigger self called the God, the Brahma, in those periods. People still believe those things in different names of religion. Because people experience when they die, they are going to something bigger. And sometimes they don't go in there, they come back. Whether they were meditating or dying, they think, oh, they were just about to enter to God's realm. And then they become spiritual teachers and start teaching these things, and people follow them. Different times, different people start teaching about an existence of a creator as a big self that can create different things. But in Buddhism, we don't find that teaching, because everything is like 20 years ago, things are different and things are changing. That's the teaching of Buddhism. Change is the only thing that does not change. Things are changing, evolves. Different food we are eating nowadays shape the future. Cancers and all kinds of things come, eating meat and eating all kinds of contaminated meat, hormone-fed meat. These shape cancerous society, and people, evolve. And global warming happens. All kinds of things happen. So these are not God's creation, natural stuff. So that's how self is not found in the Buddha's teaching. People try to believe that I am the supervisor, but you happen to be supervisor because of the training you got. That's not yourself. When you keep yourself undefined, life is so easy. When you are the boss of some place, so much trouble come with that. When you are the owner of some place, you cannot enjoy. Like, when you are the owner of the house, you always think about fixing things. When you are the visitor of the house, you find beauties of the house. Anyway, too far to go. 32, right? No, 33. No, 34. Is that the last page? Yes.
Is it?
Yes.
Wow.
4 days in this, right? And what, friend, is a signless deliverance of mind? Here, with non-attention to all signs, a monk, like previously, right? A monk enters upon and abides in the signless concentration of mind. Signless concentration, animitta ceto samadhi. This is called the signless deliverance of mind. This is the way in which these states, so he was going to each of these states are different in meaning and different in name. 35. And what, friend, is the way in which these states are one in meaning and different only in name? So that's is that the same question he asked earlier? So in 31, what, friend, is the way in which these states are different in meaning and different in name? But here he asks,
About this,
friend, what is the way in which these states are one in meaning and different only in name? So names are different, but how do they become one in meaning? That's the question he's asking. Okay. Lust is a maker, so he's approaching this to answer this this way. Lust is a maker of measurement. Hate is a maker of measurement. Delusion is a maker of measurement. Delusion here means you are deluded that there is a self, these delusions. In a monk whose stains are destroyed, Khinasava, in a monk whose stains are destroyed, these are abandoned, cut off at the root, made like a palm stump, done away. So palm stump, when it is cut, it doesn't grow. That kind of a palm. Some palm stumps grow these days, actually. Rare. Something that is rare. Done away with, so that they are no longer subject to future arising. Of all the kinds of immeasurable deliverance of mind, the unshakable deliverance of mind is pronounced the best. Now that unshakable deliverance of mind is void of lust, void of hate, void of delusion. This is actually the last deliverance, Nibbana. Let's go to that again. And what, friend, is the way in which these states are one in meaning and one and different only by name? This is a question we should keep in mind. Lust is a maker of measurement. So maker of measurement, pamana karana. Lust is raga. Raga is pamana karana. How does that happen? You fall in love with someone and there's lust involved, and that's the only person you can think of. So you do everything for that person and you don't care about. I mean, you cannot care for other people because you want the best for that person, right? That's how measure happens in lust, that you possess, own this person but not the rest. Or you own your family, not all families.
Yeah.
And hate is, of course, a measurement. You hate a bunch of people, maybe those who make noise in your neighborhood. You hate those, and not the entire neighborhood. Or your boss at work. Okay, delusion is a maker of measurement. When you are deluded of, some people are deluded. They love pink color and that's all they want to see in their life. So that kind of says a delusion. In a monk whose taints are destroyed, taints, defilements, things that defile his mind, when those are destroyed, and when these are abandoned, you abandon taints. cut off at the root. You are mindful that you don't let them arise, and you have gone a long way that you don't let them arise. You are in a place where these things don't come. Made like a palm stump, cut like a palm tree that doesn't grow. Done away. Taints are destroyed. Kīnāsava. Cut like, made like a palm stump. Tālavattu kata.
Taints or defilements?
Taints and defilements are the same stuff. Done away with, done away with lust, hatred and delusion, so that they are no longer subject to future arising. Anabhavam kata. Anabhava. Bhava is arising. Anabhava means not arising in the future. Of all the kinds of immeasurable deliverance of mind, the unshakable akuppa deliverance of mind, ceto vimutti. If there is any deliverance of mind that is unshakable, and that is the best, agga, that is pronounced the best, that is said the best by the Buddha and those who have attained that level, pronounced by those experiencers. Now that unshakable deliverance of mind is void of lust, void of hate, void of delusion. So he's not really directly answering the question like what is the way in which these states are one in meaning and different only in name. So they are not the final deliverance. That's one way to put it, right? They are not. They have different. They are one in meaning because they are all deliverances, different freedoms that mind can experience. Different in name because you enter to these levels in different ways. That is how we understood in the beginning how these were each explained by Sariputta, right? So these are different in name, one in meaning because they are all deliverances. But then there is another deliverance, so they are not matching with that final one, the Nibbana deliverance, that is unshakable. Once you get to that one, you have let go of all the previous deliverances, attainments and everything, and you sacrifice all of them to get to that final level, that there's no more future arising. It's like you are cut off, like a palm stump. I mean, you here is the maker, the person who wants to continue existing is now done. People, I think, don't want to get to places like this because these discussions are limited to monks and limited to those who were seeking these levels in the Buddha's time. Especially in a place, in a country like this where people are very materialistic. If I were to give speeches about this, and it's like, what is this man talking about? Is he mad? Like, what is he going to get from this? So people also want to get something out of, gain something. Because you don't get anything from this, people are not interested in these kind of. But there comes a time in the world that people only seek these
I think we're
pleasures.
There. I think we're there now. We're coming.
Yeah, uninterested of materialism. Now imagine, like at the time of the Buddha, there was no TV, they cultivate their lands, and the crop comes at a certain season, and nothing else to do. They seek spiritual teachings. They have monks meditating in forest in Himalayas, and they want to, they become interested. Those they continue seeking it. They don't believe in any teacher. They are seekers. they don't stop at one teacher. If you are not happy, you go to another teacher. And when you find someone really pleasing, and you go and ask, like, who is your teacher? And what is your teaching? So you learn from him, and you also ask, who's your teacher? So you go to his teacher. Like the Buddha also, before becoming the Buddha, went to two different teachers. I mean, at least in the discourses we find that he went to two teachers who taught him to get to these states. So he taught, the Buddha then taught these states to the monks, and monks are now teaching to us. So as we are also seekers of these teachings. 36. Again about lust. Lust is something, hate is something, delusion is a something, or lust is a something, hate is a something, delusion is a something. In a monk whose defilements are destroyed, these are abandoned, cut off at the root, made like a palm stump, done away with so that they are no longer subject to future rising. Of all the kinds of deliverance of mind through nothingness, the unshakable deliverance of mind is pronounced the best. Now that unshakable deliverance of mind is void of lust, void of hate, void of delusion. So earlier it said lust is a maker of measurement. Now it says hate, lust is a something. And the same story again. And number 37 it says lust is a maker of signs, nimitta karna. Lust is a maker of, hate is a maker of signs. Delusion is a maker of signs. In a monk whose defilements are destroyed, these are abandoned, cut off at the root, made like a palm stump, done away with so that they are no longer subject to future rising. Of all the kinds of signless deliverance of mind, the unshakable deliverance of mind is pronounced the best. Now that unshakable deliverance of mind is void of lust, void of hate, void of delusion. This is the way in which these states are one in meaning and different only in name. So deliverances take you to some deliverance of freedom from lust, hatred and delusion. So they become one in meaning, but they all take you into a deliverance. So they are also equal that way, but they have different ways, and you are naming that practice according to what brought you to that. So do you have to do all this? No. You can just do one, but if you have interest, you can do other things. Monks at that time didn't have cell phones, iPhones or anything, so they found solace in this practice. They were interested in this. That is what the Venerable Sariputta said. The Venerable Mahakortita was satisfied and delighted in the Venerable Sariputta's words. 8:9. Is that? Yeah, that's 8:35. All right. So take time. I think homework is to go back to this and or go back to previous discussions. And I think after this we need to go to the basics again. So I promise to pick a simpler one. Something, let's say we can pick something like Singalowada Sutra, not from middle length discourses, but I think, I don't know which which collection it belongs to, but the importance of that is about responsibilities that people have for relationships. That's a teaching given by the Buddha. What is a relationship between a mother, parents and children? What ways parents do for children and what ways children do for parents. These are teachings that are simpler. very much about the society, social relationships that are also important. So we can go into a discussion like that in our. So I will send it to you to your email before we do it, because it's a new discussion. I will send the email a little earlier, not like today. I sent it a few hours before. Yeah, that just came to my mind. So we will do that next time. But if you have questions from this, please bring it. So I have it with me, and we can go into that section and discuss. Do you have questions now, or? Okay, yeah. So, as usual, we will go to page 6, last closing stanza. Sabba papassa akaranam kusalassa upasampada sacitta pariyodapanam etang buddhana sasanam. The avoiding of evil, the doing of good, the purification of the mind, this is the teaching of all Buddhas. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. I changed it a little bit. Did this record?
I think
2 people watching.